I'm president of the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. So welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. And that's for March 9th. And welcome and meeting purpose is this is part of our monthly meetings. And then we'll just do a quick introduction. So Giselle, would you like to start?
I'm Giselle Nova with the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County, and I'm the coordinator for that nonprofit.
The Fire Safe Council meeting on the way home.
Oh, joy.
All right, it says Carolyn's iPhone. Could you mute it so we can, well, while we're doing this. Greg, you're next. Could you introduce yourself?
Mount Shasta West is to volunteer taking care of the record button.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Dorinda, there's nobody in the room. We'll go on to Linda. You're muted, Linda.
Dunsmuir DPAC Fire Safe Committee.
Great, thank you. Joseph.
Hi, it's Joseph Hott with Black Mountain Fire. I'm the coordinator for Black Mountain Safe.
Thank you. Nancy?
Hi folks, I'm Nancy Ogren, Siskiyou County Supervisor, District 4.
Thank you. Eric?
Eric Knapp, research ecologist with the Forest Service down in Reading.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Dorinda. She looks like she came back in the room. Will you introduce yourself, Dorinda?
Hi, Dorinda Thompson in Gazelle, 450 acres full of tinder ready to burn up. And I usually can't participate because I had a conflict for months and months, but it's not happening tonight. So hi, everybody.
Oh, great, thank you and welcome. Kimberly?
Hi, Kimberly Duvall. I'm the Public Affairs Officer with the Klamath National Forest.
Okay, thank you. Perry?
Hello, Perry Daniels. I'm a board member of the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County and also of the Lower Scott River Fire Safe Council.
Thank you. And I think it says David?
Yes,
Tucker?
hi. I'm David Tucker with Greater Lake Shastina Fire Safe Council.
Hi, David.
Great.
Hi, everyone.
Alex, you're next.
Yeah, I'm Alex Varner. I'm with the Salmon River Restoration Council. I'm the new Fire Fuels and Forestry Program Manager.
Oh, we're so happy to have you tonight. Welcome. Welcome, Alex.
you.
Noah?
Sorry about that. Long way from unmute. I'm also out at Lake Shastina.
Okay, great. And Kristen?
I am. Hi, I'm Kristen Norman. I'm Giselle's new admin assistant for the Siskiyou County Fire Safe Council.
Well, welcome and glad to have you aboard, Kristen.
Oh,
thank
very
you.
glad.
Great to meet you, Jamie. I'll be taking the minutes. I'll be typing away as everyone's talking tonight. I'm the minute taker.
Thank you for that.
Mike Wilson?
Hi, Mike Wilson, California Fire Safe Council, Northern Region Coordinator.
And very welcome to you too. Lindsay?
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Lindsay Laschek, Forestry and Fuels Project Manager for the Shasta Valley Resource Conservation District. And as always, I'm going to have to dip off at 6:30 to go to our board meeting, but looking forward to.
Okay. And Delphine?
Hi everyone, my name is Delphine Griffith. I also work for the Shasta Valley Resource Conservation District as their forestry project manager.
Good. Julie?
Hi, Julie Titus. I'm wildfire, excuse me, wildfire fuels consultant throughout the county. And recently on CW.
I wanted to see what was having the sales meeting. But I'm gonna have to, I'll leave and put it back on.
Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Wright. I'm detailed to the Shasta Trinity National Forest for the Mount Shasta McLeod Unit Fuel Specialist, and I'm on loan from the Klamath, where I'm the fuel specialist for the Scott and Salmon River Ranger districts.
All right, welcome. Todd?
I'm Todd Corey, just a resident of Mount Shasta, interested in being fire safe.
Great. Phil, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Phil Lanzo. I'm the Unit Chief, Cal Fire Siskiyou.
All right, and Becky?
I'm just an interested observer, just here to get looking at. Right.
Okay, Becky, I think you said you're an interested observer. You had an echo going there.
Yeah, the audio is not working well for me.
Okay. And Torchbearer, Scott?
Good evening, Jamie and all. Scott Steinbring, Operations Director at the newly formed nonprofit Torchbearer that's promoting training and prescribed fire.
Great. Carolyn?
Yeah, hi, this is Carolyn Napper. I'm the District Ranger on the Shasta McLeod Management Unit for the Shasta Trinity. Thank you.
Great, welcome, Carolyn. Marjorie?
Marjorie King, Juniper Flat Fire Safe Council.
All right, and I think there's a page 2, so this might be a record for us. The daily transcript.
Hi, this is Eric, Siskiyou County Air Pollution Control District, Eric Olson. Good evening.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's you down there. Okay. Thanks, Eric. Todd Andrews?
That he's on mute tonight.
Right.
But he's in chat.
Okay.
So he's Pacific Power.
All right. And then Brian?
Yes, hello, everybody. Brian Stoney from Siskiyou County OES. And nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Jake?
Good evening, Jake Burgess, Cal Fire System Unit. I'm the pre-fire planning captain. And if Susie's not on, she'll be on here any second.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Sally?
Hi, Sally McGregor, Hammond Landowners Association President.
Welcome. And I have the Hotlum Eco Regeneration Camp.
Hi, Jonathan Kabat here from Hotlum Eco Regeneration Camp up at Hotlum and the Fire Ecology Network.
Right, great, thank you. And I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Siroy?
Hi, yeah, you got it right. Siroy is the way I pronounce it. I'm an events, I own an events company and I'm interested in doing fire safe events, and I have some fire training, so I'm here to observe. Thank you.
Okay, great. I believe Ada?
Hi, I just saw this on Facebook, so I thought I would listen in since I live in Siskiyou County.
Great, welcome. And Jim Berger?
Hello. I also just saw this just now on Facebook, so I thought I would jump in here. So thank you.
Great, we're happy to have you. I do think we set a record tonight for at least our Zoom meetings. So we have 2 pages. So if you could help me by, if you need to speak, put up your hand in the chat program, because it's going to be tough for me to toggle back and forth between the two pages, but Giselle will be watching that as well to make sure. So we're not ignoring you. We're just trying to do this to get everybody on this. So great, thanks for the introductions, everyone. And we'll review and finalize the agenda. Instead of going through the whole agenda like we usually do, because we have speakers tonight, I'm going to move right into our speakers. And the first one will be Eric Knapp, PhD research ecologist for the U.S. Forest Service Pacific Southwest Research Station. And I will let Eric take it from there.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a background. I think there's a few unmuted folks, but I'm going to bring up, I'm going to share my screen here.
Oh, let me
So I
make
guess,
you a co-host. Let me see
yeah.
as soon as I can find you. There you are.
Yes, and everybody please mute while Eric's giving his presentation, and we'll do questions afterward.
Joy, can you mute, please?
Am I good to share a screen now, or are you still working on that?
I think so. You know, you're a co-host, so I think you can.
Yeah, looks like I got it here, and I'll bring my presentation up. Can you?
We can see it.
Yep. Okay, good. Let me. There we go. We're already on the second. I got to go. Okay, we're back here. All right. Yeah, so it's good to see a number of people I know on this Zoom call. Those of you who know me know I am a fire ecologist, and I mostly work with prescribed fire and like treatment effects and natural ecosystems. And so this is a bit of a departure for me, but it's kind of born out of the trauma of the fires of 2018. I had 4 friends that lost houses in the Carr fire. I'm down in Redding. And then the Camp Fire came along. And I just, as a scientist, I just try to was wondering of, well, can we learn something from these tragic events? And so I started digging into the data a bit over the pandemic, you know, looking for things that I can do without going to the woods. And this is one of the things that came out of that work. So it's really a look at the factors associated with home survival and the campfire, and it could apply to a lot of other locations as well, including up here in Siskiyou County. You know, not all of it will apply, but I think it will be obvious of what can. So this is work that I've done with Jana Valikovic and Steve Quarles at UC Cooperative Extension, and then Nels Johnson was a statistician out of our office. So, I mean, I probably don't need to go through a lot of about the campfire, but you know, obviously, more structures destroyed on that fire than any other fire in California. 85 people died, and a large proportion of the homes that were destroyed were in the town of Paradise. So that's where I'm going to focus this analysis. One of the things that was made this an interesting case study is that the campfire came through the town of Paradise over one burn period in 12 hours. So a lot of the past studies that have looked at try to associate fire behavior and or with home loss or and the factors associated with home loss have to combine multiple fires that burned in wildly different vegetation types and different fire events. But this one, there's a huge amount of data in just one fire. And here's the fire. It blew down the canyon in a northeast wind. And, you know, by the time it hit Paradise, it was about a 5-mile wide fire front. And you can see all the little dots, the bright dots. That's the edge of Paradise. Those are all homes burning. This was 10:45 in the morning on the 8th of November. Another thing you can see about this image is that there's incredible spot fires occurring sometimes miles in front of the fire. So many homes burning well in front of the fire front. And that's a feature that I'm going to talk about. So the questions that we wanted to address with this is for one, did the proximity to nearby burning structures influence home survival? When we went through the car fire and the campfire, one could see that there was a lot of cluster burning of houses, like groups of houses burning, and we were wondering, what's the strength of that effect. We're also looking at vegetation. Did home survival, was it related to the fuels associated with nearby vegetation? And then in 2008, California updated the building code to increase the standards for windows and vents and other things. And so enough homes were destroyed in the campfire that were built after 2008, where we felt like we could compare the survival percentage prior to and after 2008 to see if that helped with survival. So what we did is went into Paradise, and we looked at 3 different periods. All the homes here, we randomly sampled homes, 100 homes built after 2008. Those are in red here, and then the homes in green are homes built from 1997 to 2007. So it's an 11-year period on the other end of the bracketing the ones built after 2008. So we have, you can compare those 2 periods before and after the building code update. And then all the ones in white are ones built, the older homes. So what we did is we put circles around this randomly selected set of homes, and we looked at, estimated the vegetation cover in a 30-meter circle, which is about 100 feet, and then in a 100-meter circle around each of the homes, and that's about 330 feet. And then for the post-fire image, we looked at things like how many destroyed homes were in this 100-meter circle, what was the distance from that home to the nearest home that was destroyed. And so then we put all this in these data in a statistical model. And so in this, we compared 3 different time periods, the year built within those 3 different time periods. We have distance to nearest destroyed structure. We have total structures destroyed in that 100-meter circle. We have canopy cover at those 2 radii. We have whether the home was in the wildland intermix or wildland interface. Intermix is just a home that was built in an area that's surrounded by wildland fuels, whereas intermix is more of a denser development that may be close to a block of contiguous vegetation. And then we looked at slope and all of those variables, the interaction of those variables with the construction time period, recognizing that that might vary over time. So and then so this is what we found in the statistical model is all of the variables that were significant are up above here, and the ones that were the strongest variables are in red. And I'm just going to share with you some data for some of the stronger variables. And so you see here I'll just kind of give you a little briefing on this big, there's a lot of data here, but the top row is distance to nearest destroyed structure. And so it, ranged from 0 to maybe 150 here on the x-axis. This is for 3 time periods before 1997 to 2007, 2008 to 2018. And then the probability of survival is on the y-axis. So what you can see is that distance to nearest destroyed structure, it really didn't seem to matter much for older homes. But for newer homes, there was a very strong relationship where if your home was close to another structure that burned, your probability of survival was very low. If it was far away from another home that burned, it was much higher. And that was especially the case for newer homes. The second row of boxes, we have a number of destroyed structures within 100 meters. And for all of the time periods, you see a relationship where the more structures that burned within a 100-meter area, the lower the probability of survival. And then the last two down here are vegetation variables. Canopy cover of overstory vegetation within the first 30 meters or 100 feet. You see that the older homes, there wasn't really a relationship there, but for the two newer categories, the lower the canopy cover around your home, the lower the canopy cover, the higher the probability of survival. And you saw that for the 30 to 100 meter radius as well. So, you know, ultimately, what we learned here is that both the proximity to a neighboring structure and vegetation matter. And I'll kind of get into that a bit here with some of the other analyses. So what we did is we just graphed out, you know, the year built down here on the y-axis for homes and what their percentage survival was. And this is for damaged, undamaged and damaged homes. We put the damaged homes with it because oftentimes the damage was just like a blackened wall or a broken window and the structure was intact. So it essentially survived. But you can see that older homes didn't fare so well. You know, oftentimes it was 10%, about 10% of older homes survived. And then as you get into homes built in the 1990s, things get better. And then in the late 90s to early 2000s, better yet. And the newer homes fared the best. But it still was, 43% of homes built since 2008 survived. So that's a lot of new homes that were lost as well. So here, what we're doing is I'm comparing statistically whether this bar of 37% survival for this time period was any different from this bar of 44% survival. And when you factor in all the other variables in the statistical model, it's not significant, so we can't say that we could detect a strong effect that might have been associated with these building code changes. And I think it's just hard to tease all of that out because there's so many other factors that go into whether a home survives or not besides the building code. For example, you might build your home to the highest standards using all the best materials, but then over time, people tend to add sheds to their property or put bark mulch in or do other things that can overcome the benefits that might go along with newer materials or conforming to a newer code. We just didn't have the power in this analysis to pick that out. And there's just a lot of variables that affect home survival. So I can't say that they didn't have an effect. It's just that you can't pick it out in a statistical model with all the other factors that contribute to home survival. So then we did what's called a decision tree analysis. And I apologize if this kind of overlaps with, I'm going to have to pull my, all of the people on the talk to other side of the slide here so I can get actually see what I'm talking about. But what this decision tree does is it takes the variable that best distinguishes but whether a home survived or not, and that's the top of the tree. And so in this case, it's distance to nearest destroyed structure was your strongest predictor. And then there was like a critical threshold of 18 meters or 59 feet that best distinguished whether a house survived or not. So if a house was less than 18 meters or 59 feet from another destroyed structure, only 0.058 proportionally survived. That's less than 6%. If your house was more than 18 meters or 59 feet from another destroyed structure, that survival proportion goes up to 0.35. Unfortunately for Paradise, 73.6% of homes in Paradise fell within this category. They were less than 18 meters from another destroyed structure. So if you have that, you're more than 18 meters from another structure, then canopy cover comes into play. Canopy cover from 30 to 100 meters And I'm going to talk about why it's 30 to 100 meters factored more than 0 to 30 meters, which you might expect. But if you had less than 53% canopy cover, you go up to 48.48 proportional survival. 53% canopy cover is pretty high still. And then if you fulfilled both of those, then the year built factors in. It's like if your home was built after 1973, your proportional survival goes up to 0.606. But that's now only 10% of the homes in Paradise. And then the last variable that factored in somewhat was slope. If it was less than 8% slope, you got up to 0.73% survival. So that's a lot better than like 73% survival is a lot better than 10% survival on average. So it just kind of shows you that there are some predictive variables for home survival, or there were in Paradise. And I get back to this canopy cover question. I think the reason why canopy cover some distance from the home factored in greater than the canopy cover close to the home is more, it's not that 0 to 30 doesn't matter as much. It's just that closer to the home, there's just so much variation in that canopy cover based on it's like canopy cover really probably doesn't matter. Overstory canopy cover doesn't matter so much as the fuels that are dropped by that canopy cover. It's the litter, the branches, the sticks that fire actually is carried on. And closer to the home, you have driveways, you have walkways and other things that break up the continuity of those fuels. Despite the canopy cover, you might have trees that have high canopy cover, but the fuels on the ground are broken up because of that's where we do our gardening. That's where we have our lawns and things like that. So it just shows that areas that you had a lot of canopy vegetation some distance out fared worse. And I'm going to show you some pictures later on to indicate that it's maybe not necessarily the canopy cover itself, but it's like I say, it's variables associated with canopy cover that matter. Then what we did is we went into the CAL FIRE damage inspection reports, and we downloaded all the pictures of damaged homes just to get a sense of where the damage is on homes. And I know the homes that were destroyed might have suffered from other sources of damage, that fires might have entered in different spots in those homes. But so it just kind of gives you a rough idea of some of the vulnerabilities of homes. And it was, the data were really strongly in line with what we found in the statistical model, where we found that this percentage of damaged homes is on the y-axis, and these shows the different variables, fire damage causes. Radiant heat was the biggest cause, and that's just, the flames are not impacting the home, but it's just the heat of a nearby fire, which oftentimes can break a window. And this particular home right here had vinyl siding on it, and you can see that the radiant heat melted the siding. This particular home also had apparently a bunch of pine needles on the roof that caught fire. Another variable, the second variable that of interest, or the strongest variable, was indirect ember ignition, flaming contact from indirect ember ignition. And that differs from flame contact from direct fuel continuity to the house. Fuel continuity to the house is if you had pine needles that went straight from nature to your home, and you could track the fire and see that there was a consistent black, from the surroundings to the house, like this one right here. Looks like it has fuel continuity to the wildlands around it. But then you look at this home on the bottom here, and you see it has a lawn around it, and it had flame contact to the wall, but it looked to here like an ember got into, caught the fuels underneath these bushes on fire, which then impacted the wall. So that's flame impingement, but with discontinuous fuels from the wildlands. So that's not really a wildland fuel problem so much, but that's an ember ignition. And then you have a direct ember ignition of surfaces, and that's actually didn't occur that much. We didn't see a whole lot of evidence of embers landing on a house and actually catching a house and fire directly. And then we have, some unknown categories which you couldn't define. The one on the left here, by the way, is an image of a house, and this is something we saw quite a bit of, is where the contents of a gutter caught on fire. And that's, again, areas with high canopy cover, there's more stuff in the gutters. When you have an ember driven fire, the embers will ignite the contents of your gutter, and then that fire can then move from the gutter into the eaves and into the attic of your house. So the fire damage location, again, is really in line with the idea that a neighboring burning structure is important, because we not only the cause of this radiant heat was oftentimes a burning structure next to that house. And what we did is we looked at the maps and saw that when we had a house with radiant heat damage, there was oftentimes another structure in close proximity that burned. And that damage was often a broken window or a exterior wall that was charred in some way. Eaves, roof, and gutter damage were another major cause of damage. Decks and stairs, attached wooden fencing, and then we had some other undetermined categories. And so embers were the cause of fire impact, either direct or indirect ember ignition for 33% of the damaged homes. And you can really see how embers pounded this landscape by just looking at things like, here's a piece of patio furniture. You can see all the ember holes burned into this patio furniture. So a real ember storm. And then just grab this picture right here from the Cal Fire DIN's summary, showing that, even some homes with a great defensible space can be vulnerable. So this house didn't have anything growing around it, but if they have another way for embers to get in, the house can be destroyed that way too. So I found that, just a second, but going through these pictures is really informative. When you think about your own home and what you might do to make your home more fire resilient. And just go through some of these examples. In this particular case, what happened here, it looks like you had a wooden fence, between properties that caught fire. That fire then went into the eaves. And luckily in this case, it didn't get into the attic, but it very well could have done so. And right here, it looks like you maybe had a direct ember ignition of some trim board. And the one in the middle, we saw a lot of examples of planted vegetation. And this is one that's just not really good in our environment. Juniper, high bulk density shrub with an ember gets into that, torches out, and affects goes to your house. The one on the right here is another example of a wooden fence catching fire, likely because of an ember. You don't see any really direct flame contact, but then affecting the house. Lower left, in this particular case, what appeared to me happen here is there was a wall-to-wall bark mulch placed in against the house. That bark mulch caught fire, and then that went into the corner of the house. And that's how we tend to put bark mulch everywhere, and that changed for me after the car fire, where I was at a friend's house helping out in evacuation, and I was standing in her front yard, my friend's front yard, where an ember landed on the bark mulch at my feet and caught the bark mulch on fire. And I was just amazed at how quick that happened. you know, when it's 100+ degrees and that bark mulch is very, very dry, it's an ember magnet. And so the flames might not be very high from it, but there's certainly enough heat content in there that can really easily get into the walls of a home. The middle one here shows a gutter fire, and that was super common. You know, sometimes they get into the attic. You know, in this particular house, they got lucky. The picture on the right here, it looks like it was just stuff that's stored against the wall of this house, this newer house, that caught fire. Something was there that then the flames punched a hole, you know, through the eaves, and luckily didn't get into the attic. So one of the interesting things, you know, when it comes to, you know, preparing your home, a lot of the emphasis up to now has been on, you know, defensible space. And so the focus has been on the vegetation. But I think like an analysis like this shows that it's not just vegetation. Yes, vegetation is important, but it's also, you know, neighboring structures that are fuel too. And there's a lot of scenes that you can see in some of these recent fires where you see these destroyed homes, but the vegetation around it may not be impacted. I mean, this picture was taken in Paradise in December after the leaves had fallen off the black oak trees. So it's not clear whether these, you know, these trees were, it doesn't look like they were torched from the fire, but they actually, you know, this pine survived. So the vegetation looked a lot better than the homes around it. So oftentimes you ask the question, well, is it a vegetation fire impacting the homes, or is it a home fire impacting the vegetation? And like this picture on the right here, an overflight taken by, I think, Evan Bettis from Deer Creek Resources, shows homes that were destroyed. And you can see it's just around those destroyed homes where the vegetation torched out. Where you didn't have homes, the vegetation actually looks pretty good. So in summary, you know, just the fact that we saw really strong associations of these different variables with survival, it really does suggest that there's some fixes that could substantially improve outcomes. And, you know, building codes, they might help us, but, you know, it's just one tool in the toolbox. There's a lot more that can and needs to be done. And it's more than just defensible space. You know, we have to think of the homes as a source of fuel too. And oftentimes the amount of fuel in a house, it dwarfs the amount of fuel in the surrounding wildlands. There's a huge amount of fuel in a home. So the key is, you know, not to let your homes catch fire, but the fire hazard reduction is ideally done at a neighborhood scale, for the fact that, you know, you can do everything at your particular property, but if a neighbor doesn't do the same things and their home catches fire, the radiant heat of that structure burning can impact your house. And so ideally, fuel reduction has to be done at the neighborhood scale. And I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done, and a lot of it has to do with maintenance and keeping the property free of leaf litter and stuff, especially adjacent to the house. And there's a lot more emphasis now on this 5-foot non-combustible zone immediately adjacent to the house, and you know, just keeping combustible material away from your house, keeping bark mulch away from the house. So what I've done on my house, I've scraped all the bark mulch a far distance from my house. Not having a wood fence that goes straight to your house and provides a wick to your house, but maybe having a section of you know, wrought iron or some other, you know, non-combustible material against your house, things like that. So if you want to read more about this, it's a paper that recently came out in the Journal of Fire Ecology. And there's more information in that paper. I would be happy to open it up now, and if you have any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
That was great. Thank you, Eric. And so if people have questions or comments or anything, If you could rate us or on chat so we can capture it. We have 2 full screens to look through.
You can type it in the chat too. I'll monitor it.
All right.
Can you take well, I'm on the phone, so I was wondering if I could just, I'm not in chat available, take a question from Eric Olson. Can your studies and methodology with, I got it that it's very complex and you have to make, certain assumptions. So can you extend this out if the data is available to find common denominators in other incidents? I'm thinking about, I can't recall the name, fire in Santa Rosa. Well, there's been a couple there that started in like wildland urban interface and then went through heavily densely populated where it was going from house to house to house. Kind of what happened with the Bulls fire here, but on a larger scale where, it burned through wildland and then became structure fires.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
good. Going house to house.
That was a Tubbs fire that you're talking about in Santa Rosa, and yeah, the Alameda fire in Oregon, the Bulls fire. A lot of these fires, once the fire gets into a densely populated area, it oftentimes goes house to house, and a lot of that is because of these same, the same factors. Is because when a house catches fire, it's a huge amount of heat produced, more embers, and it's very easy to go, house to house contagion. So I think the same variables apply. It might not be the exactly the same. The housing stock, the arrangement of houses is all different in Paradise compared to a lot of these other areas. But if it, yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it to the next question.
All right, do I have another question?
Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. It's Jake Burgess at CAL FIRE Siskiyou. Just a question and a comment. I guess my comment first. This was one of the first incidents where CAL FIRE had data for both before and after. So I know that we did some of our own analysis as well, and we came to some of the same conclusions. And the major one being related to the defensible space inspections prior was that 0 to 5 foot zone that you talked about. So I do know that there's legislation, and that is a change that's coming to our defensible space inspections, I believe starting in July of 23, where that will be a zone that we will now enforce, having a non-combustible zone from 0 to 5 feet from your house. It was one of the primary factors that they found from their studies. Did you utilize any of that analysis that they had done?
I looked at the data, but I would say only about half of the homes in our sample had defensible space information. So it was a little limiting, and it's pretty rough of just what was there good defensible space from 0 to 30 versus 30, up to 100. And we did not include that because we would have had to throw out a lot of other houses that didn't have the data. It was just incomplete for our data set. But I have a hunch, it would show some of the same things, but maybe at I just focused because I was looking at satellite imagery of just at the overstory tree canopy, which I know is not really the variable that's driving. It's not overstory trees that are really driving home loss, and you can see that from the pictures. Like I said, it's oftentimes the fuels that are dropped from those trees. And yeah, in areas with high tree canopy, you tend to have more litter on the ground. And if you don't deal with that litter, or if you let it accumulate on your roof or on the gutters, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, I agree. It is a limited sample size or data set because I want to say it was something like 2,000 homes that were part of the DINs had actually had previously done defensible space inspections within that year. So that's all we analyzed. We didn't go into the detail and quite the same scope that you did, but it's interesting nonetheless.
And there is a paper, Andrea Sifford and John Keeley published a paper using the data that you're talking about, a 2019 paper in the journal Fire. But their analysis found that the defensible space didn't really have it wasn't really a strong factor in their models. There's
Awesome.
other
Thanks.
Variables.
Yeah, there's lots of other variables. I think that's one of the key things. There's so many variables.
And if for your home to survive, you kind of have to tie up all of the variables. And Ember only is looking for, the weakest link.
Yep.
All right, Eric, you have a couple chat questions. So one is, are there some home building materials recommended over others to prevent fires?
I mean, obviously what the thought is that there's a lot of concrete siding these days. It might be one reason why the newer homes fared better than some of the old, more wood siding homes. We didn't really look at that, but it's just, that's just the thought that obviously concrete board siding is good. And is there anything other? Yeah, but it's just like wood siding itself isn't necessarily a huge hazard. I saw a lot of houses that survived that had wood siding, but they didn't have anything below that wood siding for an ember to catch the wood siding on fire. Because if you have vertical wood siding and an ember hits that, oftentimes there's not enough of a surface for an ember to land on and and stick to catch that siding on fire. It's usually something that's on the ground, or like leaves under your deck or stored things under your deck that are the problem, rather than a wood siding. All right.
There's another question of, was high winds a factor in your data analysis?
Well, I think this fire and a lot of these major structure loss fires have one commonality, is high winds, and that was the case with the campfire. But we didn't analyze the winds because this fire burned during a period of high winds. So I think as it went through Paradise, there was high winds affecting the fire through that entire time. So it wasn't like some houses got affected with high winds, some not, but it had probably a very strong impact.
All right, and I believe Julie had her hand up. Is Julie still with us? Where'd she go? There you are, Julie.
I did. I just wanted to say that I thought it was interesting. I know, of course, when we say, well, defensible space isn't as much of a factor, I think it's important that people realize that it absolutely is, because of that first 5-foot thing. Because you said that earlier on, Eric, and I know you mean the zones that CAL FIRE puts out, really important. And I think to be careful, on what we portray, what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. It's just, and I try to make that point, is that both vegetation and defensible space and proximity to a structure matter.
Absolutely.
And it's not one or the other.
No.
We tend to want to, put things in bins, but yeah, it's everything.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, can I just pipe into 2 more things real quick?
Sure, Jay.
To be quick. So just to add on to what Julie was saying, well, one of the bigger components that people don't always consider with defensible space isn't necessarily for the house to make it on its own. It's also for fire resources to be able to get in safely, mitigate any fire issues around the home. So if you look at all the pictures that Eric showed, those didn't go out on their own. That was because there was intervention by fire resources, or someone put those fires out. Otherwise, most of those homes probably would have burnt down as well. So I think that's an important caveat to remember, and that's as critical a piece as any when it comes to defensible space. And also Eric had mentioned some home hardening stuff. I dropped a couple links for some low cost retrofit home hardening stuff from CAL FIRE, and also another link for home hardening for CAL FIRE for folks to check out if they want some more info on that stuff. Thank you.
Awesome.
And Jake, I have to wholeheartedly agree with you. If resources are spent then on trying to go to individual homes and save them, then they're not actually fighting the fire themselves. So it takes resources away from spreading to more homes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do I have another question? I'm sorry if I'm slow here. I have a question for you, Eric, or more, it's more of a comment on urban growth density issue. Based on your comments about the proximity of one home to another, the state of California is pushing urban growth density for all cities in California to change our ordinances from single residences with larger yards to be able to have multiple residents on what used to be a single lot, and it just increase from a standard 2 to 4 person home to having where they could have 10 or 20 people living on the same property. That will continue to be an issue then in the future under your description of the scenario.
Yeah, and I think it just points to that. If you're going to have high housing density, you better well button those houses up so they don't catch fire.
Yeah. No. I have a question down here, said, please talk about the use of sprinklers either in the yard surrounding the home or on the roof.
I don't have any information on that.
I would like to speak to that. A lot of times there's a lot of people during an event that will think, well, I'll just put sprinklers on my house or on my roof and it'll be fine. But what happens is that then there's a drawdown of water sources for fighting the fire as a whole. And there's no guarantee that just because you put sprinklers on as you're leaving to evacuate that your house is going to be standing. I've seen that dozens and dozens of times in my career as a wildland firefighter, and it just kind of it's like too late. You know, if you haven't done the work that Eric was talking about previously, it's like too little, too late.
I'd like to add that Silver Tip Towers has some solutions with sprinklers, and I'll talk about that after Brian. I'll talk about what Paul had to say.
Yeah, there's a difference between your home sprinklers that you use on your yard than there is where you're putting a full system in. Comment is well pump does not work when electricity goes out, then sprinklers are a no-go. It's very true. If water is available and unlimited, maybe, but with limited water, save it for the engines. Yes, Scott, thank you. And okay, do I have any other hands up? I don't want to miss
Todd has a question.
Oh,
I
thank
see
you.
his hand up.
Thanks, Todd.
I installed sprayers around my buildings 20 years ago, and I just have to emphasize that it's really a common myth that they go on the roof. They don't go on the roof because the drip edge around the building is going to leave a dry area, which is where the building's going to combust. So you really want to have them under the eaves where they spray the side of the building and the ground around the building. And of course, then you want backup power for your well pump. But I really wish there was a little more research done into active systems. Of course, you want to do your passive mitigations too, but active systems, wet wood doesn't burn. That's just the way it works. And I'm really frustrated that this is an area that seems really lacking in fire prevention for homes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Anybody else have their hand up? Oh, I saw somebody. Hold on. Kristen?
Yeah, it's really to hear all of your analysis and data, Eric, because we survived the car fire. We now live in Castella, which is like the most fire-prone place ever, and I have total PTSD and anxiety living here. But yeah, we survived the car fire, and it's just our neighborhood fits your data analysis to a T. Like everything you said holds true for we're in the Victoria Highlands neighborhood out near Old Shasta, and it's literally like every single point is like spot on. And yeah, our house only survived, even though it was the newest house in the neighborhood, had the best defensible space of any house in the neighborhood, and it still would have burnt down if my husband hadn't been there with a water truck from work and the fire crews, hadn't been there to help. So yeah, it's really, yeah, it's much needed information to corroborate all of our real life experience.
Thank you.
So thank you.
All right, from Hotlum, comment, fire retardant systems are becoming more affordable. True, more than they were 20 years ago, and insurance premiums should reflect prevention measures. Oh boy, howdy. I couldn't agree with that more. That would be nice. Eric, any comments?
Yeah, I haven't really looked into that, but yeah.
I have a question for you. In your analysis, Eric, one of the things that when I was working in the field, one of the things that we found on the large urban interface fires is even though the flaming front would not get the houses, and the flaming front would pass and the houses had survived, it was well, as you said earlier, the radiant heat, but also the embers, the hot fuels left after the fact, and then they would keep burning and then get into all the that you mentioned, and then we would lose the house after the flaming front had passed.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you looked at that. I know because firefighters have a tendency to focus on the flaming front, and if it's passed and the house has survived, you move on. And I was just wondering if you had any analysis on that for the campfire.
No, we didn't really look at that, but it's totally true. We just looked at whether a house survived or not from the CAL FIRE data, and not what happened, when it burned relative to the flaming front. We don't have that information.
I can give you the numbers from our neighborhood. My husband was there watching it. Out of, I think, like close to 100 homes in the Victoria Highland neighborhood, 75, about approximately 3/4 burned, but 20 of those that burned, so about a quarter, 18 to 20 that burned after up to 2 days after. So the fire came through Thursday night. My husband's there by himself, right, defending our home and my brother's home and my other families. We had 3 family members' homes in that neighborhood that he saved. And there was 18 to 20 houses that survived the fire that came through Thursday night that continued to burn down from embers following up to 2 days later. We're still burning down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just a little mini snapshot data set. But yeah, it definitely was a significant proportion of the homes that burned after the fire came through.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kristen. Another question, how do plants such as English ivy or other such plants fit into your analysis?
Well, a lot of what we saw is just anecdotal from the pictures. Obviously we saw quite a few pictures where vegetation planted right next to a house. It's not necessarily the vegetation that caught fire, but it's the stuff underneath the vegetation. When you have dense vegetation, oftentimes it's hard to scrape the needles away. So if you have plants next to your house, make sure they're open and the litter is easily removed. Yeah, it's maybe we have to rethink the way we plant vegetation around our homes. In the past, it's been like, well, you plant a bunch of stuff to hide your walls. Maybe we have to move that back, more than 5 feet. I know that I've done that in my house in Reading, is I put rocks around the base of my house, and I have clay pots there now with more succulent plants.
But ivy is very fire resistant. There's houses in our neighborhood that should have burned. Like they're the least defensible space, like all the factors that should have burnt down, but they were surrounded by super dense ivy. And so another little ant, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors, but ivy is very, I mean, there weren't a lot of trees like overarching the house, but generally ivy somehow tends to be fire resistant.
Well, it's like vegetation that doesn't have a lot of dead stuff in it.
Right, it's water.
It's live. It's basically half water, and so it doesn't necessarily catch fire. But there's a lot of other vegetation where you have a lot of dead branches underneath it, which it would not be so good.
Right.
All right. Any more questions? I don't see anything on the chat, and I don't want to make sure I don't miss anybody. I don't see anybody. So
Jamie,
then I want to thank Eric so much for this great presentation. It was wonderful, and I'm sure it was very informative for a lot of our audience tonight. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Eric.
You're very welcome. So have a good rest of your meeting.
And Eric, can you leave on the chat your contact information, so if somebody wants to contact you later?
Sure, I will do so, and I will also dig up the link to that paper so people can just get it from there. So I'll do that before I leave.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Great, wonderful. All right. Next on our agenda is Brian Shannoni with the Siskiyou County, Siskiyou County OES on Zone Haven. Are you still with us, Brian? I'm looking for your here.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Oh, there you are.
Hello, everybody. I'm actually in New Mexico right now, so I just this Zoom is working out perfect for us. So I'm going to put a link into the chat, and if you'd like to go to that link and follow along with what we're doing, this would be a great opportunity to do that. So let me go ahead and put that. I'm muted. All right, so what we're going to talk about tonight is a Zone Haven, something that we have put a lot of time and effort into and have had an amazing response from the local fire chiefs, and CAL FIRE has been an incredible partner with this. And one of the things, as most of you know, I guess I'm new to this. I'm a little seasoned after last year, but this was a big push for us, is to move Siskiyou County into this direction. And one of the things that I wanted to do is to get us online with Zone Haven. And as we're seeing throughout the year, or throughout the fire season last year, that Zone Haven has been an amazing partner with the state of California, and what it's going county by county and adopting it. And one of the things that we were able to do is during the lava fire was Zone Haven went ahead and let us use it. We didn't implement it out. We just used it internally, which worked out really well for us, especially in the EOC, and for our partners coming, especially in the incident command teams that came from out of state and weren't really 100% familiar with how Siskiyou County does stuff and basically the layout of our county, because we are unique, especially with how large we are, and the population is very dense in some areas, and then we're very sparse in others. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of show you what we're all about. And if you clicked on that link, you probably saw Zone Haven. Make sure I'm on the right page. Okay. All right. So this is Zone Haven, and this is what we've done is we've used this program, and along with other programs in the county, we basically zoned out our entire. Is everyone seeing my screen here? Yes, just a thumbs up from someone, works great.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So this is Zone Haven, and it is Zone Haven Aware is real time for what we do, and it basically creates zones for the entire county. My staff, Adam, has been outstanding in making his way all around Siskiyou County, meeting with fire chiefs, meeting with CAL FIRE to ensure that we have a good eye of what we want to see when it comes to breaking up the county into zones. So the days of on the truck hood with a Sharpie and a highlighter marking out a zone, we now have pre-placed zones that we can use. And we can also, if need be, on the fly, create these zones. So I'm gonna kind of take you through it. This is our view of it. And what we've done is we have split up the zones into Siskiyou County for unincorporated areas, and then in the districts that require something like Wairika. So we'll go to Wairika. Wairika is all split up with the fire chiefs and with law enforcement and CAL FIRE support. So what we're going to do is I'll take you through it real quick, and then we'll talk about why, and we'll talk about what it is. So let's say we have a fire and we need to evacuate some areas. So what we do is we're going to pick our zones based off the incident commander, and we've been alerted that dispatch there needs to be some zones evacuated, or at least put in a warning. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these two areas in a warning, and what you'll see if you're on a Zone Haven Aware is it'll real time populate. So we can populate since no one's on there right now, and so these are going to go to yellow. And for those of you that have been around Siskiyou County for a while, you know that our yellow is our warning. We have a warning and an order, and those are our two. So if there is a warning, that means that we need to be cautious of that, right? So we have those two areas that are yellow areas, and what those will do is you have the Zone Haven Aware app that it'll push right to your Zone Haven Aware app, and it'll tell you the direct route through Waze or Google Maps on how to get out. So it'll tell you the traffic, it'll tell you the traffic flow, it'll tell you everything. And as you can see, we also have all the schools, we have evacuation shelters, we have animal shelters, and it'll continue on from there. So if this was going, it'll actually tell us that what your route of travel and your safest route of travel to get out of that area is. So if we, one little talking point is right in the way. All right, so, and if we needed to do that, we needed to, let's say this progresses a little bit more and we need to update this status. We can actually update this to red. And as we saw in the fire season last year, a lot of our county was in red, unfortunately. And whenever there's red, there's also going to be yellow right next to it. So we're not going to do that today, but I'm just going to show you. And if you're on the Zone Haven Aware app, it will actually update in real time. So I'll show you that if you're not on that page. So we have it updated to red. That means that evacuation is under an order. That area is under evacuation order now. So that need to get out. So I'm going to quickly go over to our evacuation page here. This was what the public would be seeing. And as you can see, we have Wairika area. 1336A and 36B are under, or I'm sorry, 1339D are under evacuation orders. Sorry, I'm trying to do this without a real mouse. All right, so we have our two areas under order, and it's going to tell you if there's, as you can see, so it'll click here. Description, west of North Fairchild, evacuation order. This is basically everything that needs to be pushed out to the public. This is also what we really like about it is it syncs up very nicely with Code Red. And until the state figures out what they're going to do, right now we're going to use Code Red, and we're going to continue to use and integrate Zone Haven into Code Red to ensure that we have the best possible way to ensure that we know our zones and know how to get out. So that is a basic idea of what Zone Haven is, and it does what I really like about it is especially for us in the EOC and for the basically for any like incident management teams that are coming in, is it tells us what and who is in that area. So let me just move that. And then we can also go to, I guess I forgot to say that part of it, I'm sorry. We can also go clear to repopulate. So if it goes to green, we can update that status and allow people to go back in and allow that area is safe for the public. So we can do that there. And so really for us right now, that's gonna be our big push. So it'll go online. It's online now, and we have used it. But for us, it's gonna be online 100%. You'll start seeing this month. We'll wrap up the rest of our zones. April will be a big push to Know Your Zone campaign, and this is where the Fire Safe Council will be absolutely essential to help us disseminate that information out and make sure that the folks are getting the proper information that they need. And then Knowing Your Zone campaign is going to be a really big push as well, because we want to make sure that folks know what they're doing and where they're going. And one of the things for me, a few weeks ago, I was in the South County in Forks of the Salmon and some of those areas, and internet down there is, as most of us know, is spotty to say the least. So we're doing a little bit, we're using the same ideas, but what we're doing is we're pushing that through basically the old school way of cutting up their zones with Zone Haven, printing it out on steel boards, and we'll have them at their community centers. That's a really big push for us, and moving forward, that's really something that we feel that is going to be beneficial for the entire Siskiyou County. Shasta County has been using it as well, and they integrate well. Oregon, to the north of us, they've been using Zone Haven, as well as Tehupa and Del Norte is using it as well. So it's definitely being adopted, and we're seeing a huge push because it is very technology driven. Our challenge in Siskiyou County is just using it with the limited internet that we have in this area, in some of our more rural areas. So I'll kind of keep moving forward on this and ask. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions. But some of the things we want to push forward is along with Knowing Your Zone campaign, and you'll see that again in April and especially in May during our Wildfire Awareness Month, is we're going to see our campaign of just being ready and understanding knowing your zone, signed up for Code Red, having a go kit, being prepared, knowing where your valuables, your pictures, anything that you could possibly, and it's crazy to think that that's a normal now, but one of those, as we have seen throughout these last few years with fires, is that we just have to, throwing your pictures of your loved ones in the closet is just, it's not a thing anymore. You got to know where everything is in case you have to grab it and go. And that moves us into being ready. So just that get ready, which is going to be get ready, get set, which is going to be our yellow. If there is an evacuation warning, then we know that it's time to go. If we don't feel comfortable, we have to go, and we want to leave, absolutely, we can do it. And then having our car packed, our fuel tanks filled with gas, and it's painful to even think that right now, especially with how expensive gas is. And then getting ready to go. If we go to an evacuation order, that we have to go, because as we saw, pushing our sheriff and some of our first responders 3 hours away in the Happy Camp area or down in the Forks of the Salmon is really challenging. So that's basically Zone Haven. And I don't mean to rush, but I'm going to actually get pulled back to what I'm doing here in New Mexico here very shortly. So I'll leave that to kind of, if anybody has any questions, please, by all means, feel free to ask them, and we can go from there.
Yeah, Brian, if you could stop screen sharing so I can I can see everybody's to see any questions and stuff. There was one, it says, what mobile app will work with this? I searched on Zone Haven in my Play Store and I see a lot of options.
So it should be Zone Haven aware. It's in that app, and then that app goes right to your phone and also to your personal computer. And we'll see it more live here next month. In April, you'll start seeing, you'll probably be sick of seeing it, quite honestly, but that's good. And I hope you guys will be, because you're going to see it everywhere. We're going to be pushing it out to everything you can think of, every media that you can think of. Zone Haven will be on there. And right now, you won't see a lot. You'll see us playing in it and see some of the zones being chopped up a little bit. But for the most part, in April, we'll be 100% dialed. We'll be 100% dialed by the end of this week, or I guess next week. I'm sorry, I don't know what week it is. So by next week, we'll be ready to go, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be really a great push, and just to see what Zone Haven did for us during the Antelope Fire, the River Complex, and the Lava Fire. It was really awesome to see, just especially for those folks coming in who just don't know our area. That's going to basically be our standing operating procedure. Is we're going to drop that book in front of them and say, hey, this is how to do it. We used it throughout all of those fires, and it's been an excellent tool. So yeah, if there's any other questions, I'll field those for you.
Yeah, Julie had her hand up.
Yes.
Yeah, Brian, yeah, quick question I had was, it's not real time, is it?
It's an absolute real time. It's we can do it out in the field. We have some of our folks are equipped with Surface Pros that we can do it right then and there. It's
so my question then is, like, in the evac process, you can right away let people know which way they should be going, because I know they need to get to know their zones, but so often the panic and the social media, people can get going in incorrect directions. Will this show people, hey guys, you're not going north or you'll head into the fire, you need to go south?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is one of the things that for me was just an absolute must looking at the Dunsmuir area, is because our limited routes of access, and that is going to push us and tell us which way to go. And that's all set up. And I see Susie's hands raised. I know she's been a huge part of this.
I'm going to go ahead, Susie. You have a comment.
Yeah, Julie, to answer your question, yeah, it will be on there, but the initial the initial push that says you need to evacuate, it will not tell you the exact road name at that second. So it'll probably be a follow-up within Zone Haven, as well as code red on, hey, Interstate 5 is, only taking north traffic, or whatever the circumstance is. That's why we're also going to preach when we do this campaign is no two ways out. So we get used to going in the same direction. Well, that direction's now blocked off. Now which direction are you going to go? So there's different ways that we're trying to push the same information out, but it's just new technology for us, though. Really, to answer your question.
Got it. Thanks, Susie. Thanks, you guys.
All right, I have something from David Tucker. We have a significant number of people in Lake Shastina that are not tech savvy. Are there any other platforms besides driving to a community center where they could see this information?
So one of the things that we've done is we're integrating this right into the Siskiyou County OES website. So if you have it, that option will be there. And then the news feed also pulls straight to that as well. So anything that those maps get shape filed and sent to our GIS person, shape files those and send those out to different media sources, whether it be the news, radio, whoever else needs to push that information out as well.
Okay, the next one was Zone Haven was a huge help for us during the Antelope Fire. Updates came faster than any other source found. And then Kristen had a hand up.
Yeah, at our last month's Fire Safe Council meeting, we had a similar discussion about the, not necessarily non-tech savvy residents, but same concept of, for us in the car fire, it was 4 a.m, power's out. were asleep, and so I guess I had the same kind of question of like, is the Zone Haven, I'm new to this field, granted, I'm a novice in this field, but this may be an obvious question, but is the Code Red and or Zone Haven linked to send out like landline phone?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So absolutely, Kristen, great question. Nothing else changes. We're still knocking on doors. We're still running through neighborhoods. This is just an extra tool that we can use. iPause is still being used. Code Red is still being used. Your neighbor knocking on your doors should still be used. And that's what's so important. And that's what is community, right? Like, I know we had that throughout the lava fire, that somebody's like, I didn't get an alert. Somebody knocked on my neighbor got an alert, knocked on the door. Well, heck yeah, that's how it should be. Like, this is a whole community event. We need to get behind each other and help each other out. So yes, we will also be using every other technique as well. This is just an additional technique. And if that means us and me banging on your doors, then that's what we're going to do it for in the morning. So.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think of what would have been different in the campfire had this been in place there.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Wilson put a link to upcoming events and workshops if you want to look at that. And then let me see, will Zone Haven factor in an improved evacuation route when directing people to which roads to evacuate?
So great question. And these folks that work on Zone Haven are like 10-pound brains. Like, I don't understand how smart these people are. And they have a weekly meeting and that we sit in on, and they're like, what can we fix? So we tell them and they're like, okay, we're fixing that right now. And then like 2 days later, it's released and we're like, oh, wow, okay, that's neat. So these folks are very vested. I believe the main programmer and who created it actually lost his fire in one of the Bay Area fires a few years ago. So he's very vested. He works closely with some retired fire chiefs from CAL FIRE, and they're working nonstop on it. I mean, it's great. Our, Adam, my staff analyst, who's outstanding, made 2 suggestions on, hey, we need to be able to do this, this, and this. And within 2 days, it was done for the whole program. So they really take into account what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And they're updating constantly. I can't say enough good things about them. So.
Also to add to that, Jamie, is to remind folks that the incident commander is still in control of that. He is making recommendations to the local law enforcement to activate Zone Haven and Code Red. So they are still giving the roads that are accessible or not accessible for folks to drive on if they do have to evacuate. So just so you guys know, it's a constantly changing. The people on the boots on the ground are giving that information to make sure they have Zone Haven work for us. So.
Okay, so my question is, we're doing a lot of evacuation route improvement here, fuel reduction and putting in evacuation signs. Is there somebody I should submit that evacuation route information to at Zone Haven so that they are aware that these are the roads that are being improved?
No, Marjorie, send that to your battalion chief. Kent Cunningham is well involved with this as well. It all depends on the incident and what type of incident and what road to use. So send it to Kent and he will make sure that myself and Adam have that, as well as Brian, for when we do activate Zone Haven.
Okay, Kent has been very involved in this from the beginning. So I just thought maybe somebody at Zone Haven should, or
it's all us. Yeah, we take care of that and we push that information up. They're all real time and they're doing that basically for boots on the ground, which is us.
Okay, so I should also send it to OES. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just send it to us. We'll take care of it. Yeah, we'll push it up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Hotlam. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. It has his hand up.
Hello,
Jonathan. Hi there. Brian knows that I was informed by a neighbor that the lava fire was actually, going and spreading. And my property is the closest property to the lava fire at point of ignition. And Code Red, didn't do me any good because, there's no there's no address on property
that, doesn't have an address. And I think many of us have, properties that may have assets on them, tools or whatever it might be, that, we need to be notified early. How do we like sign up to be in a zone when there's no address? Is there a way to do that in Code Red now? Because you and I talked about drop pinning a location on Code Red and that never functioned. It was always based on my address, which is not, the same as, property that doesn't have an address. And so I would get a notification if there was a fire in weed, but I wouldn't get a notification on my property. And that being said, some of us have multiple.
So Jonathan, you broke up, but I'm gonna answer that, and because you were very much part of our conversation, so I hope you're hearing this. One of the things that we did, and one of the reasons why we like this program so much, is that it does. So Jonathan, I don't know, you broke up, but I'm gonna answer because I know what you're asking. So one of the things that we did is we really focused on this program because it allows us to pull shape files and directly put them into Code Red. So there's no longer I need to put an address in like a shape, like I need to draw a little line on Code Red, because that's how we had to do it. We had to do like a little, and most of you could, raise your hand in the background for me, but have you ever had to like sign your name with the mouse where you're like, what, how is this even possible? It's not my name. Well, that's basically what we had to do with Code Red. And we had to do that with a shapefile. And it was terrible. And there was a lot of explicit words that were said during that time. So one of the things that we really, really like about this program is that I can pull that zone is already loaded into Code Red. And now I can send that alert to Code Red and Zone Haven at the same time. So there's no more pinning addresses and, this deer path in this road is now like, no, we don't have to do that. The zone's already created and we've taken care of that. So you were a huge part of that. And thank you for that. Our phone calls, they made a difference. So I appreciate that, Jonathan.
All right, I got to ask you a question. I'm going to give myself a chance, Brian, here. Is one, do you have an idea of what's the percentage of population in the county that has actually signed up for Code Red at this point?
I don't, and I don't know the exact number. I know that we have 29,000 individual names in there. Okay. But then I also know that during every event, someone comes up and says, I've never heard of Code Red. And then we look you up and we're like, well, you are part of Code Red. We have you in there. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I hope that you call me all throughout May and all throughout April and May, and we re-sign you up 4 times, because the more times I can sign you up with Code Red, the better. Code Red is not our favorite program, but it's what we have, and it's what works right now. Until there becomes something better. I know the state was trying to go with Nixle, and that contract fell through. So we're going to continue to push with Code Red, and I know there's hiccups with Code Red, and I know that folks, they get upset and frustrated with Code Red, and we are going to integrate Code Red into iPause this year to make sure that the both are there. Go ahead.
My comment isn't about being frustrated with Code Red. My comment is more back to the earlier question. We do have a lot of people who necessarily don't have or don't use smartphones and apps and things like that. So I know we've done a big push to get people to sign up for Code Red. Now we're asking them to sign up for another app. And so I kind of see a little pushback from folks going, well, wait a minute, I thought we had Code Red, now we have to have this other thing. And that's why I was asking what's the percentage, because if we could get everybody from Code Red onto this, it would be great. But just even in my town of Etna, I struggle. I try really hard to get 100% sign up of Code Red here, and I know we don't have it yet. So to go into my second question, because I have 2 hats, I'm also the mayor. So what can I do from the city standpoint to work with you and help you so we can get this out to my city and Mount Shasta and every other happy camp? So
absolutely. So great question, Janie. So one of the things that I want to do is throughout May, is everyone in this place is going to see my face at city council meetings and fire meetings, and because we need to push this out. We need to make sure that everybody, Jamie, I live in Atlanta, so whenever I'm out, I press this, and people are probably like, who is this crazy person always talking about Code Red? But it's important. And I think that one of the things that we miss so much is that we let our guard down when it's raining and when it's nice, and we don't, right? And I can tell you I haven't. We're pushing every single day. And the day that fire season ended officially, we took a quick little breather, and then the next day we were back on it, because I want to make sure that every single person in this county knows about Code Red. They know about their warning and their alerts, and then eventually they're going to know their zones to ensure that we don't have a campfire. It just can't happen.
Okay, so here's a formal invitation to come to a city council meeting for Etna.
Sounds good.
Anytime between now and whenever you can do it. And then if there's anything from a city standpoint that we can do, and this is for everybody, if you
Absolutely.
can help us what we can do to help you get out the word, that would be great.
Yes, so you that will be seen here in the next I don't know what the date is today. Whenever I get home, which is hopefully sooner than later. So as soon as I get home, I've been working on basically how we're going to roll this out and our preparedness plan for the county. I'm really looking forward to pushing this out. I have a meeting with the board of our supervisors here shortly, I think next week. And then we'll roll it out to each community and understand that everybody knows kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So,
okay.
And I know that Susie was off mute for just a second.
Yeah, and I have somebody with a raised hand, Noah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering if there's been any conversation about connecting this and with a siren system, again, for those low tech folks that, yeah.
Yes, so great question. One of the very cool things that has happened is Zone Haven was sold. The American dream, the person who created it sold it to a larger company. Of course, he stayed on and he still implements and writes all the code for it. But he sold it to a company called Genesis. And if you've ever lived in the Midwest, you hear those sirens when the tornadoes are going. That's who makes all of those sirens. So they basically developed a siren system that is in connection with Zone Haven, and they're rolling that out basically within the next month. Me personally, I've worked with a few preparedness grants for Happy Camp and some of the other areas that I want to get those siren systems hooked up in and use that. So yeah, great question.
Is there a way to access how we could get those resources to implement that in our like Lake Shastina?
Yeah, so I don't know if I have, but I'll make sure that my email is in the chat, and email me every day if you need to. I'm okay with that. It reminds me and keeps me on the ball. So
thank you.
All right, Becky did ask, our evacuation routes in the remote wildlands too, as in Forest Service roads, and I believe Susie answered with yes, Forest Service roads are included also. And
yes.
Then Todd wrote that Google Play does not show a phone app for Zone Haven Aware, so he had to make a desktop icon link to the web page.
See, I love it. Absolutely, yeah. That's
okay. And then Giselle said, Fire Safe Councils, please put your updates in chat as we are short on time. And yes, I don't know if we're going to get through our agenda tonight. And Linda said that she needed to leave, but Dunsmuir will host a community forum in May and look forward to working with you. So
I'll be there. Sounds good.
All right. Do I have any other questions? I'm going to make sure I hit everybody.
I got one more, Jamie.
Oh, Julie, go right ahead.
Sorry about that. But as we're talking about all this, obviously one of the huge just factors in the campfire and in many of these fires is the state of the roads that are identified for evac or arterial routes. So I just hope as communities, we can keep our eyes on that. I know Phil and CAL FIRE has made that a huge push, and it's super important that that push continues, because there's a lot of road systems that aren't in the best shape, and that's super important. So, yeah. I don't know if you're, if that's something that's part of it, sort of like, well, this one's going to need a lot of work, or this one's not, or whatever. So just thought I'd bring it up.
Yes, no, great question. Esperanza comes to mind immediately. No, I mean, I can't thank Susie and Phil and everybody else at CAL FIRE. They've just been outstanding to help me identify all of these. Especially they've been in the county for longer, and that's one of those things. Again, my email is going to be in that chat, and if you have a concern or you need something updated, by all means, email me. I'll put my cell phone number in there as well. Email, text, whatever you need to do. You can hit me up on Facebook if you need to. Whatever you need to do. By all means, I listen, and I take every one of those in concerns wholeheartedly, because I want to make sure that everybody stays safe, and that's a huge concern of mine. And Jamie, I wanted to just say thank you for Fire Safe Council as well, and Giselle, everybody, Julie, thank you for allowing me to come on and present this, because I know it's exciting to me, and hopefully it will be exciting to you. I nerd out on this stuff, so.
Brian,
Thanks,
and we'd
Brian.
love to have you back later on in a couple months too.
Sounds good. Yeah, whenever.
Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Jamie, if I may speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Giselle.
I'm in a ExperShare sharing space tonight, and I have to be gone by 7:30. So I'm going to have to close out by 7:30.
Okay.
So one thing I'd like to do is talk about Paul Mavernick of Silvertip Towers, the sprinkler system. He's going to be, and Phil can tell you exactly what time, March 19th. They're going to be at the fairgrounds, and he's going to do a demonstration. He says he believes he's going to come on about 10 there. And so you can walk, go over there and see that. But if I may share my screen momentarily, I have a little video clip, and we can do that, I think. Maybe we can't. Let's see. Oh, can you see that? That's his press release. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so just read that. That's his little press release. And then here's his video. Can you see that?
Not yet.
You can't see that? Oh, geez.
But not the video.
Oh, well, maybe it's not working. Can you see it now?
Yes. Now it's gone.
All right, let me. There it is. That's what one looks like. It's a huge sprinkler system, and you can run it off a water tanker. It doesn't have to go in your well water. If you have a tank of water there, it works. And again, Paul Maverick of Silvertip Towers will be at the fairgrounds March 19th at 10 o'clock giving a demonstration. So, all right. That's all I have with that.
Okay, and we'll send out an email thing on that too. Giselle.
Okay. All right.
Can we do that?
Yes, we will. We can.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna move on, and we probably won't get to our normal amount of our agenda tonight, but we'll try to get through some of it. Julie, do you have any updates on the biomass solutions? Oh,
Phil is on, and he could probably speak to it more so than me. I've been working with both CAL FIRE and Jennifer Erickson on Klamath, just trying to figure out if we're going to be able to, how likely are we able to get one. And Phil, if you want, would you like to update, since you updated me?
Yeah, absolutely. Julie, we've been in discussions regarding the air curtain burners with the county for quite some time in an effort to find a solution to eliminate all of the yard waste and kind of encourage folks to do their defensible space and then have some place to take it where it can be eliminated safely. By not having the small control burns, dooryard burns in people's yards, it just lessens the likelihood of an escape, which we're starting to see right now, an uptick in those escapes. But people are trying to do the right thing by eliminate that fuel. So I was talking with Jason Ledbetter for the last 2 years now in an attempt to get the county to purchase an air curtain burner so that they could take those fuels and burn them as the fuels come in, and instead of having a large fuel pile there that we have to take care of all at once. So we really haven't been able to secure an air curtain burner. I made an attempt about a year ago to try and get one from CAL FIRE, but they were currently all being utilized in other CAL FIRE projects. So I'm still going to continue that effort. And we do have at least one CAL FIRE project that we've identified that we could definitely use it on, and that'll possibly get me my hands on an air curtain burner. And then once I bring that air curtain burner into the county, possession's 9/10 of the law, and I will hold on to it and utilize it in multiple project areas.
Right on. That's
Okay.
that says it. And then Jennifer Erickson, who also has joined forces, she was working parallel, and they did get a small, what they call a mobile one that needs repairs from another forest up to Klamath, and that would be more like project size, not as big of the one as the one that Phil is referred to. So yeah. That's
Okay, great. Susie Brady, did I miss you when you had your hand up?
I just wanted to, I believe the time for their demonstration is actually at noon. They're following the Chiefs Association meeting at the fairground. So I just make sure we get the right time before we send it out to folks for the display. That's
okay.
all.
It's at noon. Okay.
Thanks, Susie.
All right. Susie, while you're on, do you want to give the CAL FIRE update, or Phil, or?
I'm gonna refer it back to the chief.
Okay, Phil.
Darn it, you almost had her there.
I almost did.
For CAL FIRE, like I mentioned, the weather has changed. We're starting to see some more escape control burns. The water levels down. We're in a state of drought once again. So CAL FIRE will more than likely be staffing early. We've made a request to bring on our resources as soon as March 15th, but we don't believe that's going to happen. It may not be until April, probably April 11th. We'll begin upstaffing our engines, one per battalion, and then we'll shortly move into one engine per station. Following that will be full staffing. This year, we are more than likely going to receive augmentation again so that we can fund our firefighter one hand crew. The hopes are that a budgetary change proposal has gone in to request permanent funding for that resource here in the county. If that happens, then we won't have to worry about whether or not we're going to have that hand crew in the future. So odds are very good we'll have that resource. They are also allowing us to have one additional dozer like we have in the last couple of years. So we will have 3 dozers available within the unit as well as our normal staffing. We're seeing quite a few support staff come into the unit as well to help us with all of the finances and the documentation and all the paychecks that have to go out. So CAL FIRE is doing very well with that. I will turn it back over to Jake Burgess to talk briefly about grants.
Thanks, Phil.
Yep, not a whole lot to update on grants. The latest grant cycle from CAL FIRE for fire prevention grants is closed. We have received CAL FIRE has received all those grants, and they're currently in the grading process. I don't have any updated timelines yet or any news on anything, but as soon as I do, or maybe by the next meeting, I'll have some more timeframes in regards to that. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Forest Service, do we still have the Klamath on?
Hi, sorry for the darkness here.
Kimberly.
So first of all, Giselle, I want to thank you for forwarding on some of our news releases. And just give you guys a heads up, there will be a news release coming out hopefully by the end of the week. It's being reviewed by the forest supervisor right now, but we do have some prescribed burns that we're going to be doing more than well, we're already doing the grayback piles there, but we do have some larger prescribed burns planned for over on the Goose Nest, the Salmon Scott River Ranger District, and then I think Happy Camp Oak Knoll was going to be doing some stuff, underburn efforts on the Craggy project. So as I said, that news release will come out as soon as Rachel signs off on it.
Okay, and your big news was the snow survey said we're only at what, 32% normal?
Yeah.
That was scary.
Yes. So, and I know KTVL did a little news blurb on it tonight. So you could either check that on probably at 10 o'clock or online. And then they also talked to the California Department of Water. Anyway, they talked a little bit about some of what they're seeing with the data. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, and from Mount Shasta McLeod. Didn't we have, sorry, there's so many people on tonight.
If Carolyn isn't on, this is Anna, and I can give an update for what we have going on for fuels down there.
Thank you.
So we're still working through the infrastructure bill and what that's going to mean for our suppression resources and what that's going to mean for funding in the coming future, on if we're going to be adjusting with staffing or how they're going to allocate those funds for project planning and implementation. As far as implementation this spring, we're going to look at taking advantage of this next little bit of weather and continue pile burning in the Gateway Trail system. And then we're looking at doing some underburning up above the Gateway Trail system off the Everett Memorial this spring, and then potentially out in the Pilgrim Plant or the Elk project out in the McLeod Flats. We did complete a mastication project for McBride around the Gateway Trail system, so that is complete now. And we're looking at coordinating with Giselle down in South County on putting in for grants for Stevens funds, which are now available for federal lands as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on now to the, I think Lindsay left for the Siskiyou Prescribed Burn Association. So we will move on to if anybody from the Shasta Valley RCD, Karuk Tribe, the NRCS. Eric, are you still with us? Do you have any updates? I still see your name, Eric. Are you with us still?
I'm suffering a mutation here. Yeah, this is Eric with Siskiyou County Air Pollution Control District. And I think the last time I got to participate, we were recruiting for an air pollution specialist, and we're recruiting again. So that should be out within the next few days, hopefully. Look forward to the county getting some of the air curtain incinerator or more. I think that's a really great thing if we could do it despite our, low population density. We have a lot of fuel here, more so than populated areas, and it would be a real boon to us doing fuel reduction work. So I hope we can get some traction there, and it's exciting news to hear about the possibility. That's all for me.
Thank you. And is Todd, are you still on with us, Todd, for Pacific Power? I don't
No,
think.
he was muted tonight because he had
Right.
something else
Okay.
going on.
All right, but because of our time frame, and I apologize for this, but instead of just going through our long list of speakers that half aren't here, is there anything that somebody would like to share with this group while we have everybody tonight? We have about 5 minutes left. Giselle, do you have any updates?
But not that are not specific to the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County, only that the Stevens funding opportunity, as Anna said, has come open, and it has to be right next to a Forest Service project. So Anna's been looking at some different things, mostly in the South County. But if you have a project, get in touch with me and I'll bounce it off Anna, and we'll see if anything is viable. Other than that, I see nothing that is, I hope all the fire safe councils were able to post and chat if they wanted to. And other than that, I think we're good to go.
All right, I will give last opportunity then for anybody have any questions, comments, or suggestions for us. Like I said, this was the biggest group we've ever had since we've had to go to Zoom. So this was really different tonight, but I'm excited for all the people here. Kristen.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Brian Schnoni, if I'm pronouncing that right. If you're still hearing this, Giselle, we probably should set up a time to meet with him for outreach events and coordination and all that. But also just a plug for anyone who's, oh, we got a thumbs up from Brian. Great. We'll be in touch, Brian. But also anyone who's still on listening to the bitter end here, if anyone's interested in helping us with outreach and education, we're trying to really beef that up on the Fire Safe Council. That's one of the reasons they hired me. So really trying to get that going more. So if anyone wants to help at any events, I guess email, I'll put my email in here. And if you have Giselle's, that's another option too. We'd love any help.
Yeah, and also Susie Brady, we want to coordinate with her and outreach as well. And she'll be in touch. She's looking into it.
Okay.
And Ada, put your email in the chat here, and Giselle can get you on the email list.
Yeah.
Yes, Noah.
I was going to say it was very helpful to get the listing of this on Nextdoor, and wondering how to spread the word for people to get on the list for regular announcements. This was a very informative meeting.
Oh, glad to hear that. All right, thank you very much. And I'm just trying to reach everything. And I see that Sally, that Hammond Ranch Fire Safe Council is currently reforming. And Marjorie, thank you for your update on Juniper Flat Fire Safe Council.
So,
all right.
Noah, you can send anybody that's interested to be part of the email list. They can email me and tell me so at my email that I'm entering in here. And yeah, spread the word that way.
Thank you.
Let me see. Okay, if we don't have any other announcements tonight, I'm going to thank everybody for coming. Greatly appreciated, excited to have the interest, and we will then see you next month, and that will be on April 14th. And at this point, it will still be Zoom unless we announce in-person meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. My email, Nova Vita, is down there. If you have any more questions or input, don't hesitate to email us.
Thank you.
Kristen, can you save chat for us?
Yep, I just did.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks. Thank you, Giselle and Kristen.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Great to meet you virtually.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Giselle, I have a quick question, Susie.
Sure.
Is our meetings changed to a Thursday?
Our meetings to Thursday?
Yeah, a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's second Wednesday of the month.
Okay, so we said the 14th, that's a Thursday, so our meeting's actually the 13th.
Oh.
13th. Oh, sorry.
Oops,
No, it's all good.
sorry.
I just wanted to double check.
Okay, it's Wednesday.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks for catching that.
All right. Okay, I'm signing off now.